What is up, everybody? Welcome to Speedrun to Day 1, a show where we speedrun a game in anticipation for the new game. Today's episode, we'll be speedrunning Resident Evil 7 in anticipation for Resident Evil Village. I'm Mark Medina, and I am joined by Jesse Gomez from IGN UK.
Hello there. How you doing, man?
I am so good and very excited for this. And of course, we're also joined by the speedrunner, Marphoria.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Super good to have you. And if everybody remembers, last year, Summer of Gaming, we had Marphoria do this exact speedrun. We're back to do it again. I had a lot of fun last year, and I can't wait to see it again, especially in the new context that the new game is about to come out. Today. It comes out tonight. I cannot believe it feels like Resident Evil 7 is fairly new still. So it's weird that
it's still
Village
fresh
is...
in our minds, our collective minds for Resident Evil.
Exactly. So we have quite the speedrun ahead of us. It's about an hour and a half or so. So I say we get that started, and then we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. So let's jump right in. There it is. Okay, so let's do a little bit of backstory. As is there like an opening cutscene we have to watch, or do we just jump straight into gameplay?
There is absolutely an opening cutscene that we have to watch. Actually, for the first 15 minutes of the game, it's mostly all cutscenes, whether they're like little cinematics or interactive cutscenes, things like that. It essentially sets up the stage for what's to come. So yes, there's plenty of cutscenes to see at the beginning.
Oh, perfect. Well, then let's get those started. Go for it.
Alrighty. Also, a quick note. So we are running Resident Evil 7 on the Japanese Zero D version. It saves about 23 seconds throughout the course of the run. And the reason so is because Japan doesn't like decapitation. So it censored a few certain things. So that's the main reason we run it on this version. And, any language besides English is half a second faster. So I'll also be on the Japanese language. And another quick note about the category, we'll be running on New Game Easy because there are only two categories that we speedrun. We either speedrun Easy or Madhouse. Easy because it's the fastest, and then Madhouse because it's the most difficult. There isn't a speedrun for Normal because there's not too much of a difference between Easy and Normal. But, if you want to speedrun on Normal, you totally can. You don't need a leaderboard to speedrun on Normal. But just saying for speedrun purposes, and if you want to be on the leaderboards, we either do Easy or Madhouse. So I'll go ahead. I'll count it down. All right. 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right. All I'm taking from that entire speech is that Mark Medina is about to finish this video and go get the normal world record.
That's more of a freelance category, Mark.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make my own leaderboards.
It'll be the Mark Medina leaderboard.
Yeah, if you can't compete on official leaderboards, you just go and you just make your own leaderboards. So that's what I'm gonna go to.
Basically.
And then people will want to submit, and I will be the only moderator, and I will not accept their submissions. I'm like, this looks a little sketch.
I was going to say, you might have some competition by me, but if you're going to be like that, then I'll stick to the normal leaderboards.
We got the top 2 runners right here, folks.
I always think about when it comes to speedrunning stuff. Yeah, so just a little bit of context on stuff we can talk about a little bit later. But me and Jesse have both played Resident Evil Village, and so I love this idea of like technically because Jesse's beat it, he's technically the world record holder for Resident Evil Village.
I do want to say, as of this recording, I completed Village at 2 hours and 59 minutes 13 seconds on the hardest difficulty. I don't know if that's going to be topped on the first day. It most likely will, but I'm feeling pretty accomplished about that. I just want to say.
GG's.
That's like a 24-hour world record, at least, maybe. I don't know. Speedrunners are pretty nuts. I'm thinking it might be maybe a 4-hour world record or something. A speedrunner will just beat it on their first try.
Yeah, they always do, man.
Yeah.
10 steps ahead all the time.
Well, What's great about when a new game comes out, people right away will start kind of testing and labbing to see what sort of stuff we could do in the game. So what's really neat, at least in the demos, there's already similarities that we've seen between RE7 and RE8, things that they've carried over, different gameplay elements and things of that nature. So I'm very, very excited to go in, and all the RE7 speedrun community is also very eager. As soon as launch day happens, we're all going to go in and see what we can do with it.
Yeah, that community effort must be really spectacular to see when a game comes out immediately and all the speedrunners just jumping on it, trying to get all in on those categories. It must be really cool to see.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
It definitely seems like it's like, speedrunners like yourself are like almost like definitely more hyped than just people like me who are just excited to play the game, because it's like, you're about to start this like journey of like tearing this game apart. Like, I'm going to get the game and I'm just going to play it. Well, I did that. And I feel like that's most people's experience, where it's like it's like, all right, the work begins.
Basically. And what's interesting is, usually for me, I try to feel out a game first before I decide to speedrun it. But since I already see so many similarities between both games, minus, they didn't carry over the inventory from this game, which I'm a little bummed about, because I'll explain it here in a bit once we, get to see it. I think RE7 has the best inventory management in the RE series in terms of speedrunning. It's just so clean, so awesome, and it adds such an awesome layer of depth to the speedrun. So once we get into the basement and we start doing a little bit of our menuing, I'll explain why it's the best menu.
So before we jump into like speedrunning stuff, we have Jesse here for a reason. He is a Resident Evil lore expert. My words, not his.
Yeah, I haven't said that just yet.
So something, because this is speedrun to day one, this is anticipation for the new game. And the speedrun is kind of blast through a lot of the story stuff. Let's talk about why we're here. Why can't I see my character? We're in first person now. Like, who are we? Why are we here? And why is this house so gross? Jesse, give us a little bit of a recap.
So at the moment, the Resident Evil world, Resident Evil universe has already gone through so much. If you remember Resident Evil 6, that was like a globe-trotting adventure. We saw the C virus absolutely decimate tons and tons of people. And I guess, Resident Evil 6, I had a certain mixed reception to it, and I guess Capcom wanted to bring it back a little, bring it back to its roots. So Resident Evil 7, you've got Ethan Winters, a new character, and he's essentially just searching for his wife, which brings him here to, I think, Louisiana, if I'm correct. Because he received a rather distressing email from his wife saying, hey, you need to come here because I kind of need some help. And here we are with Ethan Winters currently undergoing some pretty strenuous tasks in murky water, trying to find his wife. He's already going through a lot of trouble, and it's a pretty nasty situation already. But in terms of the lead up from Resident Evil 7 to Village, I think the biggest thing that people want to know is this going to be the end of Ethan's story? Because with that first Resident Evil 8 announcement trailer, it said, the story is coming to an end. And we don't know whether that's for Chris Redfield, who you see at the end of Resident Evil 7, or it could be for Ethan Winters, who's only introduced to this game. There's already a lot at stake.
That was quite the recap.
Yeah.
That's a great recap.
That's the thing, like, when it comes to Resident Evil, like, I'm a big fan of how it plays overall, but the story is already so important. But it is also pretty silly as well, considering how much has happened in the world of Resident Evil.
Well, we found our wife. We can go home now,
that's
right?
pretty quick. Let's just pack up and go home.
Simple email and in and out. We're good to go. Jesse, what did you, as a huge Resident Evil fan? So I played Code Veronica as my favorite Resident Evil. I played all of them up to 4. I played 5. I'd say I played like the first half of it. Okay. And then I'll be honest, I never played 6. And then 7.
Same here.
Sorry about that. And then 7,
Apologies.
We can kind of say is like a little bit of a reboot of the franchise.
Soft reboot for sure. Yeah.
It's like, new characters, different perspective. What was your like gut reaction playing Resident Evil 7 for the first time? I actually want to hear from both of you. We'll start with Jesse.
For me, it was It was such a strange experience because Resident Evil is one of the like earliest franchises I ever got into. The first PlayStation 2 game I played was Code Veronica, and I remember very distinctly like that was the first time I was playing a Resident Evil game, and I didn't quite understand that you had to hold a button to run. You have to hold like square or something. So I just died all the time trying to walk away from zombies like an absolute fool.
Oh no!
I know, it's
Jesse's
so
just-
embarrassing. I never got
Jesse's
past that
just
graveyard.
frantically
I never got
walking
past that
away.
graveyard.
Speed
But-
walking, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into Resident Evil 7, which was first person, it's such a bizarre experience, but just spending, 10, 20 minutes into the game, it already feels so familiar and just like kind of comforting in a weird way, considering it is a horror game. But just overall, I think the jump from, going to those classic camera angles to the over the shoulder of Resident Evil 4 and then first person, I think it's kind of a natural progression. I think that's what's great with Resident Evil is that you have such like distinct versions of Resident Evil throughout, but overall when it comes to Resi 7, like I've always been a big fan.
What about you, Marphoria?
Before I deep dive into that, let me explain our awesome RE7 menu because this is the
here we
main
go.
part. Yeah, so as you can see, the menu operates in real time here. We can access it during any downtime, such as when NPCs are moving, during boss fights, when doors are opening, things like that. The very thing that's unique about the RE7 menu is that you can move the cursor, of course, but the cursor stays exactly where you left it. So, we can set up our cursor beforehand. Right now I have it over the bolt cutters. So we don't have to think twice when we interact with certain objects and stuff like that. So throughout this whole run, you'll be seeing me open up my inventory, rearranging items. Sometimes, well, I don't think in this particular category, I'll be deleting items. You do in the New Game Plus categories. But yeah, it's just such an awesome menu. Yeah, you can move items around and whatnot like that. It's just such an awesome menu in terms of speedrunning, and it's such a fun thing to optimize as well. And what they didn't bring it back in Village, unfortunately, but from what I've noticed, because when you saw the inventory, it looks very similar to RE4. Pretty much spitting image of the RE4 inventory. But, same thing. You can rearrange items and stuff like that. But like the menu, like you can move things with your mouse and it's so, so fast. And I'm very much looking forward to see how that comes into play in the speedrun. But to answer your question about how I felt when I first played RE7, I hope it's okay. I'm still talking, right?
No, go for it.
Okay.
This is Marphoria's show here.
Well, it's your guys' show too. Yeah. But when I first played this game, I was absolutely terrified. And my very first memory of Resident Evil was watching my brother play Resident Evil Director's Cut for the PS1. I was too scared to play it, but I was absolutely terrified of the zombies and seeing how, you didn't know what was lurking around the corner and things like that. Every subsequent Resident Evil game after that, equally scary to me. But playing this game, and it's just absolutely terrifying. When you bring a horror game into first person, it's so immersive. And I feel like that's the best way to experience horror is, when it's brought into your face like this and, you don't know what's lurking around the corner. All the enemies are literally in your face. It's just, it's such a great experience. But I will say, yes, I was very scared to play this game, very terrified to finish it, but it was such an accomplishment to finish it because, like I said, I was terrified. I'm sure lots of you guys were terrified playing this game for the first time.
And now I assume you're basically unfazed by anything that happens in the game.
Yeah, nothing is terrifying anymore.
For the most part, the only times I do get scared is when sometimes enemies will attack when they're not supposed to, or when Jack busts through the wall when he's not supposed to at various points. Just stuff that you're not used to seeing in your speed run. Sometimes that happens. As
a speedrunner myself, I feel like that's more the terror comes from something not going how you thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no.
That's essentially the most terrifying aspect of the game, of the speed run, at least.
And Mario 64 is equally as terrifying.
Oh yeah,
as Resident Evil 7 for sure.
When the bob bombs are a little to the left than you expect them to be, I scream sometimes out loud. Jesse, quick question. You told me that we were here to save Mia, and we got an email from her.
Yeah.
If I'm seeing this correctly, we just put an axe in her. So what? what happened? What happened in
Right.
it was a quick 5 minutes.
So I guess Ethan has just discovered that, something pretty funky has happened to Mia when he last saw her. She's, I guess, infected at the moment with the mold virus, which that doesn't sound entirely great, to be fair. You
Sure.
don't really want to experience that, on your day to day. But yeah, now Ethan is just trying to find out, like, what exactly has happened to my wife, and why is she trying to, axe me up? It's not really the most romantic thing to go through, but it can happen to anyone. For sure.
He just wants to ask you a question.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing
yeah.
wrong with that. But you have to feel sorry for Ethan because he goes through so much in 7, and we're going to see like one of the worst things to happen to him in like a couple of seconds, I suppose, when a certain limb goes missing. But you have to feel sorry for him.
Well, you think the limb is going to go missing.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Is this one of those speedrun strats we're about to witness here?
Well,
Wait, so what's exactly supposed to happen here? Oh, she's good. She's back. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, she's totally fine.
She's good.
She's fine.
Just
Don't look behind her, what's in the other arm,
tis but a scratch.
Oh,
but
okay.
remember earlier how I said we're running on the Japanese censor version?
Oh, of
couple-
course.
Couple things here. First off, Ethan doesn't get stabbed with a screwdriver. He gets stabbed with like a gardening fork, which I think is way more brutal than a screwdriver in your hand.
Pretty rough.
Next up, this part here gets censored and Ethan keeps his hand. This part here doesn't save any time, but it's just here to show you, hey, we're censoring a bunch of stuff here. And oh no!
Oh,
Very convenient cut to black there. Very handy.
He just took a nap. It's okay.
I mean, seeing everything he's just gone through, him blacking out for a half second, that seems
makes sense. Makes sense.
That seems fine.
As you can see, Ethan's hand's a little glitchy because it's, not really supposed to be here, but there it is.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's super weird.
Does the majority of like the Resident Evil 7 speedrunning community like stick to the Japanese versions for the time saves? Do you ever see people playing the European or American versions?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually recommend to newer runners to stay on their Steam version, whatever console version they were on, just because, like I said, it only saves like 23 seconds. And not just that, it's like, you want to make sure before like you have to buy the game again, that you really like the speed run, right? So it's just something we suggest to get later. And we just got a one-hit Mia right here. I didn't explain anything about our axe here, but essentially our axe damage is tied to frame rate. And the higher your frame rate, sorry, that's fun to do. Sometimes we ragdoll Mia with the box.
You can really tell Ethan cares about her. And her safety.
Now you're just being rude.
I mean, it's entertaining. When you've ran this game hundreds of times, you find ways to entertain yourself. But anyways, yes, our axe damage is tied to frame rate. As you see, you can kill her in one hit here on easy. It's quite satisfying because the little clipping sounds great. But yeah, that particular fight, as long as you set it up correctly and do like your heavy swing and turn your camera at the same time, you can kill her in one hit there. It's quite awesome.
Yeah, I learned a lot about that.
So much.
I learned a lot about that from another Resident Evil speedrunner, Hazeblade. He speedruns Resident Evil 2, the remake, and he's just running around just like knifing bosses. And then he explained, it's because the frame rate is so high, you play at low graphics and all that stuff, and it's like, so every frame that the knife is in the boss, it's taking damage. It makes the knife essentially like super overpowered.
What's crazy, so you get the knife here in RE7. Here in this category we're running a new game. We just keep our vanilla weapons that are given to us. We have the knife, the G17 handgun, we pick up the broken shotgun and repair that, and we use the knife just like for a couple things here. But yeah, the knife here in RE7, that's not affected by frame rate. It's literally just the axe in the guest house that's affected by frame rate. So then, the next game that Capcom worked on, RE2, that knife was really OP. And then when Resident Evil 3 Remake came out, the knife wasn't as powerful anymore. Kind of interesting. So yeah, it's interesting how, you had a very overpowered knife in 2 Remake, and then when 3 came out, you're just like, oh, well, guess we'll use something else.
It's
So-
so interesting seeing these cutscenes again that have been essentially censored and seeing that Lucas still has his arm attached.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
another,
so
another
weird.
bit there.
So,
And
something I want to mention is I like Resident Evil 7. I do. But I want to talk about Resident Evil Village for a second here because
ooh.
the thing and we'll keep to the demos. The thing that I remember about Resident Evil 7, and I'm being reminded again, is it's gross. Like it's super gross. Like this is not a dinner Mark Medina would find himself eating.
Are you
You
sure?
would want to eat human guts? Are you sure?
This,
Prefer
inte-
not to.
these intestines look like shrimp. Come on.
Where
I
it's
mean,
like
Marguerite spent a lot of time, cooking that up. I think you should maybe be a bit more respectful.
it's a little rude of me to be like, I'm actually not as hungry as I thought I was. So and then like it's like the mold virus and stuff like that, right? And so it's like flash forward to Resident Evil Village, and it's like you're in this beautiful castle, and then like everything's super shiny and well lit and stuff like that. What do you guys think about Village's like new setting? Jesse, we'll start with you.
Honestly, like when it comes to just Village and the way it looks, I think it's beautiful. Like compared to how Resident Evil 7 looks, it's it's pretty brown, it's pretty dark and stuff. And then you have 7 where a lot of the horror takes place during the daytime. Funnily enough, regarding Resident Evil Village, there's a lot of horror that takes place during the daytime, and it's similar in the sense of like Resident Evil 4 as well. That opening segment where you're first entering the Ganado village, you're experiencing pretty like gruesome things just in the daytime, and having that. And being able to explore the village and trying to stay away from those, werewolves, and apparently there's vampires and, scary tall ladies after you as well. There's a lot to handle when it comes to Village, but like overall, I think it already looks a fair amount better than 7, which was pretty dark. I mean, even now we're just crawling through, the saddest looking area in the house.
Yeah.
Marphoria, what about you? So there's 2 demos. There's Village, where you're out in the like snowy type village, and then there's Castle, where you're in this like old Victorian castle. What do you think of the new setting?
Oh, it is absolutely beautiful. We all know that the demos were timed, right? But like I wanted to spend so much time just like especially when I booted up the Village demo for the first time. The environments were lovely. Just the little attentions to details they had there, not just on the textures, but you had the little snow falling and things like that. It was just, and again, in first person here, it's very immersive. So if the monsters weren't there, it would be like, really nice, relaxing walking simulator, right?
Yeah, totally.
But same in the castle. Like everyone played the Maiden demo, right? Yeah. So we saw like a bit of the environments recycled there from Maiden, and same thing. It's just so gorgeous, so amazing, and it's kind of an interesting contrast because we got these very scary vampire bug daughters chasing us, and quite terrifying. And then those weird monsters down in the basement with the swords. they remind me of like they remind me of like those monsters in Dark Souls. I can't remember their names, but yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. I think first impressions of it just really awesome. Very positive reception from me for Village.
Yeah, going through the castle demo, it was I tweeted this a while ago. It's like, did you guys play Last of Us 2? And honestly, it's in a lot of games. Where you Last of Us has a lot where it's like you go down into a basement or something like that, and it's like this perfectly touched up like room, and you like walk in, and it's like the light is leaking through the curtains, and like everything is just exactly where it's supposed to be, and it's like you can tell that this was a moment that you're supposed to go down there and just be like, wow, okay, like this game looks great. And honestly, it's like every scene in Village so far is that. It's like, when you're in the village, you see the castle and it's huge. Even looking at when you're going to the lady's house, I can't remember the first.
Louisa?
That's it, Louisa. And you're like going through those like fields, like they look super good. And then every single time you enter a room in Castle, it's like you walk into the next room and you're just like, wow. It's really gorgeous.
It's a great excuse to use that photo mode that's in Village. Now, I spent a lot of time using that myself.
Another part of no decapitation here.
Oh,
poor guy.
is that man supposed to lose his head?
Oh
Yes,
yeah, and
he
it's
loses
gruesome.
like half of his head.
Jesse, I think it's time for a lore catch up. Okay, so Mia is dead, presumably.
Yes.
But now you're with looks like a family of cannibals, and one of them's driving a car. So where
Poorly.
are we at now? Very poorly.
So yeah, at this moment, Ethan's just still trying to figure out what's going on. You know, he got knocked out by Jack Baker, the head of the family, essentially. And, you know, clearly something's wrong when, you know, a guy who's on fire is, you know, trying to grab you and has survived an exploded car. It's pretty messed up. But yeah, right now, he's arrived at the Baker Ranch. Something is wrong with Mia, obviously. And now he's being attacked by this crazy infected family. Obviously, we haven't encountered every single family member yet. There's still one person we still need to see. But at this point, he's just trying to escape. There's a lot going on at the moment, and he's not having a particularly good time.
Ethan's having a bad day.
Yeah, for sure.
He's just trying to
But
live.
Jack Baker just helped him out there. See, so it's all over.
You think so?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because, like, you know, in the village demos, when, you know, certain things happened, Ethan says the same thing. He's like, oh, not again. Why is everyone dying on me? And I remember thinking, geez, Ethan just has it rough, folks.
He still has a lot of years to catch up, though. You know, the other characters have been for a decent amount, you know.
Yeah.
Poor Ethan, though.
Very true. Oh, also, as you can tell, you know, we've watched a decent amount of cutscenes so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've all noticed that in Village, you can skip them, right?
Yeah.
Oops, I did not menu this. My bad. Here, let me do that really quick.
I was going to say, I was like, wow, you're not even menuing this. Because I totally, I knew that.
No,
oh, goodness.
Any other normal Resident Evil player would not have noticed that also. You could have just said that, yeah, I've totally menued this. That's fine.
Oh, you're supposed to delete the car key in the garage, and
right.
that was my bad.
Of course.
That was my bad, but it's okay.
I wasn't going to say anything, but, you know.
Oh, you definitely knew that, huh?
I was like, she didn't delete the car key. That's weird. That's all right. Speaking of speedrunning stuff, I'd love to dive into, you know, so you've played the demos. Did you play them each just once, or have you played them multiple times? Sorry, this is for Marphoria. Sorry.
I did play them multiple times, yes.
Okay, so you had alluded to earlier that you guys have already noticed some similarities, maybe some differences as well with the menuing and stuff. What do you think so far about how the Village speedrun's going to go?
Well, first off, we're definitely going to utilize those, skipping cutscenes. Something interesting is, like, you know, you basically want to pause as soon as that cutscene happens.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how we do retries here. You basically want to retry at the earliest possible moment. So that's going to be a thing with skipping cutscenes. Another thing here, you can notice right here, we don't have to be right up on items to interact with them. Those are what we call max distance interactions. So that's definitely going to be utilized, because I've noticed in the demos, you can, you know, stand quite far away before you pick up ammo, key items, things of that nature. So that's absolutely going to be utilized. And then there's also this thing called animation pulls. Hang on a second. I have to set up for this out of bounds here. Just to make sure. This is
out of bounds.
Yeah, this is actually. We're gonna drop into the basement and pick up the red key card early and keep that in our inventory so we don't have to pick it up later. We have to stand at a very specific spot for this, and then Jack will turn us around and throw us out. Just like that.
So did you just change the frame rate there to allow yourself to get into the skip?
I did. So that particular, when we swap the frame rate like that to 30, it's mainly just to squeeze by enemies easier. You know, we utilize that a few more times here. And we also do that to kind of like go through crawl spaces a little bit easier as well. I swapped the frame rate here because this makes the out of bounds just a little bit more consistent for me, at least. To drop back here into the basement. And there's our red key card. We pick up some enhanced ammo. And yeah, we're good to go.
All right, Jesse, can we get a lore update? Why are we outside of the walls? What's going on?
I mean, that happens in near enough every Resident Evil game. You know, I'm sure everyone's experienced it before. I think Marphoria might be a bit more knowledgeable in terms of the skips, though, than me. Um,
So it's
Marphoria,
not
you
tied to
mentioned
lore.
this. No, it's sadly not. But I just wanted to talk about this quickly. Marphoria, you mentioned before that Resident Evil 7 doesn't have skippable moments in it, and how is it frustrating to not have unskippable moments when it comes to speedrunning, specifically this game as well?
It can be, but I see it as a positive because one, since I stream this game and it's my favorite speed run, I can interact with the chat a little bit more, so that's really nice. Gives you a nice break. Not just that, along with breaks, during a long cutscene, they're usually about 2 to 3 minutes. For the really long ones, you can get up, you can use the restroom, you could fill up your water, and grab a snack, stretch. It's just I think it's convenient in that way.
That does seem like really convenient, actually. Now that you point it out like that.
That's a Mario 64 120 star speed run is about 2 hours long. Hour 47, and like after the first 53 seconds of cutscenes, like there's nothing. There's zero breaks. So I can definitely see the appeal here. So does that frame rate thing, does that apply to chainsaws?
No, in terms of, are you talking about like with the axe and guest house and stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, not with the chainsaw, but we are going to kill Jack rather quickly here because we're
basically
skipping.
Just inside of him there.
Yeah, we basically skipped his death animation there, which is very nice. And now we're leaving.
Simple enough.
Yeah. Oh, what I was talking about earlier, before I set up for Out of Bounds in terms of similarities between Village and this, there's another thing called animation pulls, where when Ethan uses specific items such as the crank, bolt cutters, just anything where it kind of like puts them into an animation, if you line yourself up correctly, there's less of an animation pull, and it saves you, about 0.25 seconds, half a second, something like that, throughout the course of the run. And the more that you do, the more seconds that add up and time that you save. And yeah, there's a little bit of that in Village that I've noticed. At least, when you get that little crimson eye or whatever that eye was out of the ring, and you stick it into the door. It kind of pulls Ethan into the animation to place the eye in. So if you stand at a specific spot, then there's less of that pull. And I remember last year when I was talking about this on Summer of Gaming, I was like, yeah, we call those like flush animations, and J-Hobbs he was amused at that term.
Yeah, I love the idea of like quarter second, half second time saves that you think, oh, that whatever, right? But like when you get to these, like, you're trying to inch out every second, those add up. If you save a half second, obviously, being dramatic here, but if you save a half second 50 times, that's 25 seconds, right? So it's like, that can add up. So, speaking of times, you just texted me yesterday saying that you placed higher on the leaderboards than you had recently, correct?
I did. I still need to submit the run and get it verified, but if it gets verified, we'll be 5th place, which will be quite hype.
Speaking of that, I remember talking to Hazeblade right before Resident Evil 3 came out, and he basically said that like Resident Evil 2 for him was basically over. That like now that Resident Evil 3 is coming out, he will be speedrunning Resident Evil 3. Is that something you think is going to happen with you? Are you now a Resident Evil Village speedrunner, or do you think you'll keep playing 7?
So I think as soon as Village comes out, I'll be, kind of on that for a good while, probably for as long as possible, because, sometimes you can experience burnout with speedruns. So, I'll stick with it as long as possible, presumably I hope for a couple months or so. And then, I don't think RE7 will be done forever for me, just because I still have a lot of goals left in this game, not just for this category, but, other categories such as New Game Plus Madhouse. We also have a category here I didn't mention. It's a category extension called No Guest House, where we basically just load a save after the deputy cutscene, and, we skip the whole guest house portion of the game. And it's a really great category just to practice, the rest of the game without having to watch, all those cutscenes in Guest House, which can be quite the slog, especially once you start grinding this game. So, yeah, I have goals left in that category. So there's tons of goals left in here. Just because I'm sure other folks can relate when it comes to speed running. There's sometimes you're just never satisfied, and you want to keep reaching for those goals and whatnot. So I don't think I'll be done with RE7 at all for the foreseeable future, but definitely for the near future, probably for the next handful of months or so, I'll be solely on Village.
How quickly did you get into RE7 speedrun? And was it right after your first playthrough, or were you already like coming up with like different methods to try and like perfect your speedrun on your first playthrough?
Well, during my first playthrough, I absolutely was not looking to speedrun it at first. This was back when I first started streaming and was absolutely terrified of horror games. And so I started up my stream and started playing through various horror games to help get over that fear of horror games. And it was interesting because after my first playthrough, I was like, I did the Madhouse difficulty, and I was like, you know what? And because this was back in 2018, and RE7 was just featured at AGDQ, and there was a lot of hype surrounding that, and I was like, you know what? This seems like a decent speed run to try out. So I just got into it from there, and I think I started running this game in like March 2018, and what is it, May 2021? So yeah, it's just snowballed from there.
So when you started streaming, were you not did you not have the intention to be a speedrunner? You just wanted to stream video games?
Yeah, I've always been interested in speedruns, and I've absolutely tried getting into other speedruns. Like Crash Bandicoot 3 is my favorite platformer, so I tried speedrunning that. But it didn't work out very well. I mean, I'm sure since you speedrun platformers, it's not as easy as you think. There's a lot of tech that goes behind it. Still fun speedrun, but I guess at that time I was just feeling out what sort of games I wanted to speedrun, and in terms of like me preferably being a PC gamer, this game just felt very smooth and nice and easy to pick up, which it is. It's a very beginner friendly speed run. So it just it ended up being like my first serious speed run, and actually my favorite speed run. So highly recommend you guys speed run this if you're interested in speed running an RE game.
Marphoria staple that I'm just remembering right now, but I want to talk about. Are you wearing the fingerless gloves?
Not fingerless, but
just regular gloves. Okay. And
so speed running gloves.
So sure. What's the lore behind the gloves?
Oh goodness!
Get a lore update.
A lore update, not RE7 update. Glove update. So for as long as I remember, ever since I was a kid, my hands would sweat when I play video games.
Sure.
So, and I was primarily a console gamer growing up. So yeah, lots of sweaty controllers. And when I first started PC gaming in 2016, same thing kind of applied there. Apparently, I would sweat all over my keyboard and my mouse and all that stuff. So I just had like a generic pair of thin running gloves, and I was like, let's give this a try. Let's see how this feels. And yeah, that just went from there.
Whatever gives you the tactical edge during a speed run, you have to use it.
True.
No doubt.
It's crazy because if I don't have my gloves, like I haven't tried this yet, but it just feels so unnatural to me. Like I freak out if I can't find my gloves. I'm just like, oh my god, I can't stream today, I can't play my games today if I don't have my gloves.
So like no glove runs, we're not going to see that anytime soon.
No, you're never going to see that.
I love this idea that there's just like a category extension, just like playing with no gloves.
Yeah.
Well,
it only affects one person.
Well, folks, they ask all the time. It's like, does it make gaming weird? Do you accidentally press buttons you're not supposed to, et cetera, et cetera? I'm like, no. As long as you get gloves that fit your hand exactly and they're not too big, you should be fine.
Well, and I assume it's one of those things where it's like playing, like you said, like playing without them is weird now. Like,
yeah,
that feels unnatural. They've just become a part of how you play the game.
They're an extension of you.
Okay, so Jesse, we're in a weird house. It seems we have escaped the Baker family for the time being. But catch us up. Where are we at now?
So we're in essentially, I think it's called the Old House, and it's essentially like Marguerite's stomping ground. And we just saw a bit of her there, and she already looks like to be the most terrifying combatant you're going to face in Resident Evil 7, because she looks pretty funky, to say the least. But at this point now, Ethan is in contact with another member of the Baker family who, for some reason, we're not too sure as of yet, but she's currently helping him out to escape. And we're just seeing that bear fruit right now. We have to meet her at the trailer. But yeah, it's not going to be that easy for Ethan to escape, and we'll see why quite soon, obviously. But so far, he's already come against, Baker, Jack Baker, Marguerite as well, and yeah, she's left some nasty little bits of residue there as Ethan has to crawl into. And like we said before, Ethan goes through so much nastiness. I mean, look at that. That's grim. And then you have her there like crawling away. It's just nasty.
So we actually executed a skip there. Oh God, I think I forgot to pick up shells. That's not good. Oh, you know what? Yeah, because I do not have enough shells here. All right, I guess we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit. This is unfortunate. So,
again, I wasn't gonna say anything. I was just gonna let you do your thing, but I was like, wow, she seems to have a lot less shells than she should. Definitely.
No. It's because there's a crate here with these shells, and they are very. It's like when I walked by them, I wasn't sure if I picked them up, and I should have turned around to pick them up. Of course, we got luck in speed runs, of course. But yeah, they are. Yep, they are right there.
Well, we got them now.
So, no, it's like when you go through that room at an angle and you look down, it's just it's something. So yeah, I think I saw the prompt and I thought I spammed F for that, but but it's okay. We got him now. I actually don't know if I have to do the skip again or if I can just jump right in. Let's see. Since we already like spawned Marge, I'm just doing it anyways, just in case. But yeah, well,
if it makes you feel better, you're probably still going to beat the game faster than I ever could. So,
well, if this was an actual speedrun attempt, I would have reset.
Oh.
No, but it's okay. It's okay. Plenty more to talk about, at least, right?
And thankfully now Ethan, is on his way to get that special serum because, I mean, there's a lot of infection going around and that needs to be cured as well, especially for his wife, who obviously, as we've seen so far, isn't in the best state of mind at the moment, considering the start of the game. And Ethan's on his way to try and save her, obviously.
I thought she was dead. You're saying she's still good out there. She just needs the vaccine.
I think she's dead after what we've seen. She takes a lot of hits.
That's true. I thought the frame rate axe, I thought that tore her up, but I guess not.
This moment here is just so disgusting. Like the Marguerite boss fight, like initially like experiencing this was quite terrifying compared to a lot of other Resident Evil boss fights we've seen so far, especially that like bug crotch thing that Marguerite has going on, and we're getting a full view of that right now.
Oh, perfect.
It's not pretty.
Oh my gosh.
That's it. That's all she wrote.
Poor Marguerite. Never stood a chance against speedrunners.
Let's talk about the villains of Resident Evil Village. So like we got some pretty gross villains here. I want to say that the villains in Village are a little bit prettier. Just being conservative. Jesse, what do you think of Lady Dimitrescu and the three shorter vampire ladies, and what do you think of them? The daughters, yep. I
mean, Resident Evil is known for its, iconic villains. You've got Wesker, you've got people that you face in Resident Evil 4, whether it's Krauser, and then when you come to here, you have the Baker family, but in Village itself, there seems to be quite the star-studded cast. You have the, ever so tall Lady Dimitrescu, and she looks absolutely killer. And then you have the rest of the family who we've seen glimpses of. We have that Heisenberg fellow who looks fairly mysterious as well. We don't know what's really going on about him. But then you have the rest of the family as well, like a little doll that's running about. You have the three sisters as well. It is quite cool to see that we don't just have, one singular villain that we're going up against, because think about the old Resident Evil game, really, when in the first one, you just have the Tyrant, and that's really it when it comes to the big villains that you're going to be facing, to be fair. And, Wesker's the mastermind behind it all, but, going into Village where, there's a lot more at stake there in terms of, what villains you're going to be facing. It's certainly cool to see, but it's going to be scary as well going against that family. If they're a family.
And what do you guys think about the Lady Dimitrescu? I don't know how to explain it. Like the phenomena that she has become.
There's certainly been like a fan reception, a thirsty fan reception when it comes to Lady Dimitrescu.
That's a term for it.
thirstiest of fan receptions. But like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you have a villain and then you kind of move on. So what do you think about, like, do you think she'll end up becoming, like a mainstay, like maybe a spin-off? Like, she seems like a character people are going to eventually want more of.
Yeah, I mean, just based off Twitter alone, people already want that. They want the whole Netflix miniseries of Lady Dimitrescu. It might even happen. Who knows? But Resident Evil is known for its kind of like chaser enemies. Whether it's Nemesis or Mr. X, and now Lady Dimitrescu. It's going to be weird because I feel like that's the most human, like combatant chaser enemy we've seen. And,
right.
Ethan being called like, pathetic little man thing and stuff, it hits your ego a little bit when you're playing the game. It certainly hurts your feelings a little bit. Lady Dimitrescu seems a bit more personal compared to, Nemesis or Mr. X.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse's going to have to start playing Resident Evil Village with the gloves on because the tears are going to be running down. His feelings just constantly getting hurt. And he's got what about you, Marphoria? What do you think about the slate of enemies coming in Resident Evil Village?
I was going to say, I'm very intrigued with the roster of characters we have so far. I assume, like, with the vampires, like, we've seen a decent amount of them, both in the media and all that stuff, and then in the demos. But I'm very intrigued to learn more about Heisenberg, because even in the trailers, you see Ethan getting dragged away by him and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, hang on. All right. Sorry. I was double checking to make sure I picked up that gunpowder just because I don't want a repeat of what happened with our shotgun shells. Because you have to craft enhanced ammo up here. But yeah, I'm very intrigued because, so far it's like they have these mysterious auras about them that you just want to learn more about. So I'm very excited to, especially like Mother Miranda. We see and hear that name a lot, and she's like the protector of the village, and she protects like the regular normal citizens of the village and whatnot. So
yeah, she's even worshipped by them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly, at least from what we've seen so far, the inhabitants of the village aren't all enemies. They're just normal people. But then, they answer to Mother Miranda. Lady Dimitrescu answers to Lady Miranda. So I'm very curious to see, to learn more about all these people.
Same here.
Are you guys excited for the, the Resident Evil started off as a zombie game. Now there's werewolves and vampires and stuff like that. Are you guys happy with the direction that the series has gone?
100%. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel as of yet, but Resident Evil has always had silly enemies. It's had humongous killer weird frogs. It's had spiders and snakes and killer crows that peck your eyes away. Like, if there for some reason ends up being werewolves in the game, then you know what, I'm just going to accept it. And from what we've seen in the demo, they already seem to be quite the tough enemy as well. And I'm looking forward to it because in Resident Evil 7, you have the molded and there's not much variety there. And they are a little bit slower, but when I was playing through the demos, the lycans, the werewolves, they hunt in packs, they jump over fences, they hide away, and then they, pounce and attack. It seems to have a lot more variety in it already, and I'm already looking forward to it.
Well, and something about them is like you never know. Like they'll kind of slowly walk towards you, but then they'll kind of like juke left and right. They'll charge right at you, and that's that like makes it. And you already have limited ammo, so it's not like you're just machine gunning them. So you're just like you're like trying to get that perfect shot, and you're just like, stop moving. Like,
oh god, it was so crazy on console because like I was mentioning to you earlier, Mark, I have terrible aim on console.
Me too.
So I missed pretty much every handgun shot. On PC it wasn't as bad, but yeah, it's like even when you aim at them, they kind of like crouch and like move to the side a little bit.
They know how to annoy you when you're playing the game for sure. They know what's up. But it's even worse during the demo where you have that timer and you're just, completely stressing out because, I want to go over there, but then there's enemies over there. And what's the item over there? But you have no time at all to respond. So it would be nice to actually experience the lycans peacefully with no timer.
Actually, did any of you guys speed run the demos at all? Like try to beat it as fast as possible just to see?
So
I certainly tried to when skipping the cutscenes on my second run, but then I ended up pausing the game because I had to answer the door, and then the demo ended, and I was like,
Oh, no!
okay, that's great."
Oh no.
So Maiden, I did. Maiden, I even made a video for IGN where it was like, here's how to speed run it. And I just did commentary on just like, here's how to get through it the fastest. So with the new demos, actually, it was funny. I've played the full game before I played the demos because I actually just wasn't super interested in playing the demos. But then now they're out for all consoles, and I was like, okay, we haven't really seen Resident Evil on Xbox Series X, so let's get some gameplay up of the game running on Series X. And so what was going to be a chill Saturday, quick like hour of work ended up taking all night because I'm not super familiar with Series X capture, and it's like I had HDR on, and then something else was on. It made the footage super dark. So long story short, I ended up playing through each of them 4 times. So
Wow.
speed run, yes. If you go and look at the comments, they're like, this guy just like blasted through them, because by the end I was just like, I don't care. Whatever. We're just showing gameplay. I'm not showing. People have seen these demos by now. And so everyone's making fun of the fact that I was just like skipping all the enemies, skipping all the treasures. But obviously I didn't skip the cutscenes because that's, you know, what I'm trying to showcase. So I beat the first demo in I think 16 minutes, and I beat the second demo in like, I think it's like 5 or 6. But I could probably do it a lot faster if I was actually skipping the cutscenes.
Yeah, the main reason I was mentioning it was because at least in the village demo, and you go through the field of lichens, you literally can just run straight through,
Yep.
and you won't get grabbed by any of them. So quite interesting.
I did that in the video. The only time I shoot my gun in the entire 22 minutes of Series X gameplay is towards the end when you're going through the castle and there's the enemies with the swords, and there was one right in my way, and so I popped him in the head and ran past him. That was the only time I fired my weapon. So other than that, I was just running the whole time. Man, I can't wait for people to actually play Village. I won't spoil anything, but man, the second demo, man, it's amazing.
It's awesome. What are your guys' thoughts on the Duke?
It's interesting to have another merchant back again, and we've already seen, you know, people online, you know, making comparisons to, you know, the official merchant from Resident Evil 4 compared to the Duke, and you know, it's nice to think that, you know, maybe the merchant back in the day had a friend, you know, back when the Duke was able to maybe move around a little bit more. We don't know his past, but it's cool to have, you know, that system, that game mechanic back in Resident Evil, because we had a few of those missing in Resident Evil 7, and it seems that, you know, Village is kind of bringing it back. You know, you're able to, you know, hunt animals, to craft things. You're, you know, going to be able to go back to a merchant and stuff like that, you know, upgrade your weapons and buy different bits. It's certainly nice to have the return of that, considering it was lacking in 7.
Yeah, I agree. Something with 8 is it doesn't, not that it's ever really a waste, especially because maybe if you're trying to live, but killing enemies in Village, almost every single time you kill one, it drops something. And so you're hoping like, hey, maybe I'll get my ammo back or something like that. But for the most part, they'll drop money, and you can use that money to buy ammo and stuff like that. So I actually love that there's, you know, this vendor. But I also love, if you guys played God of War 2018, you know, that he's got a bit of personality to him. He's not just a vendor. There's a reason he's there, and he says different things and stuff like that. So I actually love that character a lot.
Yeah.
That said, I haven't beat the game. Maybe he gets crazy.
Well, I haven't played it, so you're already ahead of me.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's Resident Evil Village is it's such a beautiful game. I can't believe like just how good that game looks, especially on the new consoles. It looks really, really good. I actually haven't played it on PC yet, and so I feel like I probably need to boot it up and play it, because that would actually probably be my preferred way to play it, because mouse and keyboard is my preferred control method. I feel like I would be 1,000 times better at Returnal if I was using a mouse.
Oh no, same here. Playing Village on PC certainly helped because I was playing the demos back on consoles. Like, man, I am missing 100% of all my shots, and I'm feeling 100% bad about it. But jumping to PC
Jesse,
obviously helps.
You miss 100% of the shots that you do make.
Yeah, exactly.
when you're playing
That's
on
exactly
controller.
what happened.
Trust me, we're going to have some, especially coming over from 7. I'm sure we'll have some of our talented console runners coming over, just because, like, you know, we have quite a few console runners, you know, running this game, and you know, it impresses me so much just because, like, I played this on console for the very first time when I got my PS5, and oh my god, I was struggling. And you would think it's like, oh, if, you know, you have, you know, like 600 hours in this game, it should be no problem. But oh my god, no, I cannot play this game on controller as fast at all.
Yeah.
Me, it's not about like, oh, console controller are bad or anything like that. I'm just not used to them. I've sunk a number of hours into, you know, Call of Duty and Risk of Rain 2, and basically anytime there's a shooter, I played on mouse and keyboard. So then switching to controller is like, but if that's what you play on primarily, then you're going to be golden for sure. Something I'd love to recommend if you're going to play it on controller is this made it infinitely better for me. Is if you go to the aim settings, there's aim acceleration on by default. Just turn them off immediately. It makes the game feel so much more responsive. I got a lot better once I turned those off.
Official Mark Medina pro strats for Village. So listen up.
If you need any more, that's the only tip I have. That's
okay.
Short
list.
He's going to have his own leaderboard with aim acceleration turned off.
Yeah, the aim acceleration leaderboards on normal difficulty. I'm going to have zero competition. I'm going to wear gloves while playing it. It's, you know, it's going to be a one of a kind speed run that nobody can match, mainly because they probably just don't care to.
They're just not interested.
They're just like, you know, it's fine. You can have that one world record.
Something we didn't mention is, like, here, the birthday puzzle room. This is probably like one of the biggest highlights in the game, just because I thought it was really well done. I'm sure, you know, everyone else and you guys could agree for sure, just because, you know, it's like, you know, puzzles are pretty standard in Resident Evil games. And, you know, I think, and even though like the shadow puzzles beforehand, they weren't super hard or anything like that, I thought this one was a very clever puzzle.
Well, this is essentially escape room, right? An escape room.
Yes. And what's funny is, like, you know, during your casual playthrough of this game, also something we didn't talk about or I mentioned, so we didn't pick up any videotapes just because they're not necessary at all to do the speed run. There is one videotape that we're forced to watch, and that's on the ship. You can't skip that part at all, but pretty much every videotape before that you can skip. And we actually didn't have to watch the happy birthday tape. Ethan here knows the solution from Clancy somehow, because I guess the game at this point just assumes that you watched it. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, on that note, I say we get a little bit of a lore update. Where are we? Why are we celebrating people's birthday? And who is this guy that I guess we didn't see the videotape, but there's a guy on that videotape.
Yeah, so we just, at the moment, Ethan just escaped from Lucas Baker's like little trap happy birthday room. As of now, we're currently on the way to like deliver the administer the vaccine essentially to make sure that you know, the mold virus doesn't really continue with, you know, to me or our loved one here. But yeah, Ethan just had to go through like an absolute gauntlet of an escape room where Lucas had laid down a bunch of wire traps. He had molded traps set up for him as well. He just tried to end it all, though, by throwing a stick of dynamite to Ethan. So he got a little bit ahead of himself there. But at this point, we just essentially helped Lucas escape, really, just by getting past his trap. And now we're essentially just after him at the moment.
Sorry, Lucas. Try again next time.
Yeah, poor guy. You don't really see puzzles like that in Resident Evil. Usually it's a lot of like, you know, turn the clock to this specific time, or, you know, push the statue over here. And to get those more like visceral, like physical puzzles, it's certainly a nice change.
Yeah.
And there we go. Now we have a choice to make.
Yeah. So we got Zoe here, who Who is that? I don't even remember.
Well, no choice yet. The choice will come a little bit later. But
Yep.
Zoe will make the serum, and I'm gonna go downstairs to do just like a very minor skip. But you see this little food processor there in the background. She puts this arm and like a little mummified corpse, aka the D series head. She just sticks it there in the food processor, and somehow
there you go, vaccine.
Made a vaccine.
Perfect.
But yeah.
Yeah, the only reason we do this skip is because we're able to interact with the serum immediately. Beforehand, you just kind of wait here for some reason. But yeah,
that was so fast.
Yeah,
she whipped that thing up in no time.
And she had the what is it, the vials, the needles, whatever.
Yeah, like she had it like ready to go, ready to be administered. That is Operation Warp Speed if I've ever seen it. That is
now who's this guy?
Jack Baker certainly looks a lot different now.
Yeah,
compared to when we last saw him.
So that's who this is. This is the dad, huh?
Yeah, that is Daddy Jack Baker, and it's always weird when it comes to Resident Evil, and you know it's going to happen to every enemy you face, but they always appear human at first and then turn into disgusting blob creatures.
Sure.
And you know for sure that Lady D is going to take that turn as well. Absolutely.
Aw, don't ruin my dreams here.
Hopefully
I'm sorry,
not.
Twitter. She's not going to look like that forever. I'm sorry, guys.
Well, I know kind of like a little theory that folks have, and there's just even from looking at her, her sheer height and even like her claws and whatnot, folks think that she's just like a model of tyrant of some sorts, like she's a tyrant model perhaps. So yeah, just given like the history of other stalker enemies, like we saw this in Resident Evil 2 and whatnot. Mr. X, he just shows up with like a fedora and big leather coat and whatnot, and he just kind of looks somewhat normal. And Lady D, she pops up with her very fancy dress and hat. So yeah, perhaps she'll mutate in some form.
Sounds like
for sure.
Sounds like people are going to find out tonight.
You have that connection to Umbrella as well if you've seen the trailers, because there's a few glimpses of that Umbrella logo throughout the Village trailers, and I guess it's fair to assume that maybe Lady D could be a tyrant compared to Umbrella's varied history of creating those disgusting looking tyrants with the long claws. It could be a possibility.
Well, what's interesting too, she's a vampire, clearly she's probably quite old, right, by several years. I almost want to say like hundreds of years, but I don't want to be wrong here or anything like that. But yeah, I'm curious if she's just like maybe an older first model of tyrant of whatnot, or if she's a newer one. Who knows?
That's my favorite thing about walking around the castle demo, and honestly, it's my favorite thing about like vampire lore and castles and stuff in general is like seeing old pictures and stuff like that, and you're like, oh man, this is like however long ago. They don't look like that anymore. So here's the choice. So real quick, who is Zoe again to catch people up?
Zoe is one of the other family members of the Baker family, but she seems to have her head screwed on just a little bit more compared to the rest of the family. She's not out there trying to actively kill you.
Sure.
And near enough since the start of the game when Zoe essentially helps you wake up after getting knocked out by Jack Baker when he said, "Welcome to the family, son," and he conks you on your head. And she's just been helping us throughout the entire game, trying to gather the serum to either help Mia or, Zoe. But I don't know why Zoe's surprised at this point. We only have enough for one of the vaccine, and I feel like it's, it's a fair choice for Ethan to choose, his wife.
Well,
but or Zoe.
No. I was going to say what's silly about this, literally like 20 seconds ago, she told Ethan to use the serum on Jack. So her saying, like, what are we going to do now? Like, there can't be only one left and everything. It's just like, lady, you told us to use it.
I love the spare dose,
I love the weird, like, I don't want to say inconsistencies. Well, the funniest thing about running the Village demo was when you, what's her name? Elena? It was like Elena and her dad at the beginning of the Village demo.
Yeah.
And they they motion for you to go into the shack. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to find a way for you guys to be able to get into Louise's house. And by the fourth time, I'm just like up on the crate, open the gate instantly. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, guys, I'll be right back. 20 seconds later, I'm like motioning them. All right, guys, come on. And he's like, you took your damn time. And I'm like, what? You literally could not have done it faster.
Over a wall. Unbelievable. So rude.
Could not have done it faster than I just did it, but okay, dude. You go do it.
Yeah.
Where's our thanks? Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Poor guys. It's weird how all those European villages sound really American as well. It really sticks in your mind.
They you know, they
So as you saw, we had a choice. We had to cure Mia or Zoe. So the fastest route, the ideal speedrun route here is to choose Mia. Just because, yeah, like I said, it's the faster route. If you choose Zoe, that's an automatic 3-minute time loss, mainly because this cutscene right here lasts a little longer with Zoe. And not just that, we get an additional boss fight with Mia on the boat. Kind of similar to the attic boss fights that we had. We're just given a crowbar and we're swinging it, kind of like we were swinging that axe earlier. Mia kind of has the same movement and whatnot. So, you can do that fight there in a little under a minute or so. But yeah, it's just, it takes too much time. So that's why we choose Mia. And not just that, you think if we choose Zoe, we are saving Zoe, right? Nah. In that cutscene earlier, Zoe dies. So, not just that. When you fight Mia again, she dies as well. So if you choose Zoe, both ladies die. If you choose Mia, both ladies live.
It's the canon choice. It's the perfect choice then.
It is,
But
but
it doesn't sound like a choice at all.
What's crazy is if you choose Zoe and play through the game, and then the ending is slightly different, like when Ethan's getting dragged away in the helicopter, he has Mia's phone and he's just like, bye, and throws the phone off. I'm just like, way to mourn your wife, man.
Bye.
And it's like, why are you gonna throw away you could at least trade in that phone, maybe get a little money back from it. He just
Sure.
tosses it down from the helicopter. No big deal.
All of his memories of his family are on that phone. No cloud backups.
Oh man.
Nothing.
Correct.
It's really weird as well, and it carries over to just the promotional stuff we've seen with Village, but you don't really see Ethan's face at all in this game, despite being the protagonist, and it's kind of the same for Village as well. And you don't really see that because the characters in the Resident Evil franchise, are so iconic. You have Chris, you have Jill, you have Barry, everyone else, such distinct voices and faces, and then Ethan's just like, I'm just a guy.
He's literally just a voice.
Yeah.
What's funny is that very first Resident Evil showcase that we saw last year, and they showed a little promotional art for the anniversary and whatnot. But then they also showed Ethan, and it's like, oh wow, look at this cool full body image of Ethan. Oh, his face is in a shadow. All right, cool.
And it's weird because his player models in the game, you can find out what he looks like just with a quick Google search as well. But Capcom want to keep it a mystery according to the canon.
Sure.
Yeah.
So why are we on a boat now? What happened? We were in a swampy area, and now we're just on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
So, we just saw there a few moments ago that Ethan just got carried away from the mold. Obviously, when the ship got capsized there by the mold itself. We haven't actually really discussed about the actual, antagonist of this game, which is Evelyn. She is so far appears to be the mastermind behind, the Baker incident. She appears to have some sort of control over the Baker family and the mold itself. And obviously, we've already seen that Mia has been affected by the mold in a humongous way. So as she's, going through the ship, trying to search for Ethan now, she's having these weird flashbacks of what appears to be the mold appearing from this ship and affecting its crew. And that's currently what we're seeing right now.
And speaking of flashbacks and Evelyn, there she is.
Yeah, this poor guy has no chance.
Oh, look at him.
Oh, no.
People have it really bad in Resident Evil. The world of Resident Evil.
Now, as far as we've seen, we haven't seen any creepy children in Village yet. Unless if you want to count Ethan and Mia's baby as that, but it's a cute baby. I don't think it's going to end up a creepy child.
You see some creepy dolls.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
That's for sure.
And it's weird, you do have those kind of callbacks to, those earlier Resident Evil games. You look at Village and then you think, it's fairly reminiscent to, Resident Evil 4. And weirdly enough, with those dolls, it's quite similar to Resident Evil 3.5, the version of Resident Evil 4 that, that did exist at one point before they kind of scrapped it, because when they were initially, shown Resident Evil 4, there was a segment where Leon was going up against these kind of like haunted dolls in a house. And to see that aspect kind of return in Village is quite interesting, that they're drawing back, kind of cancelled stuff from, Resident Evil games prior. It's quite cool.
Who exactly is Evelyn? Or
Evelyn
are we not supposed to know yet?
Well, we're still piecing it together, but it's quite clear that Evelyn is some sort of bioweapon, and it's a bioweapon we haven't really seen before, because you think about, the bosses in previous games has always been, these big hulking tyrants, and to have something, as sentient as Evelyn, who appears to have, control of this humongous virus and over, entire families as well. And there she is, just kind of chilling about, just on the chair that we just seen there.
Just watching TV.
I think if I remember so what's interesting, Evelyn was created by this group called the Connections, and I don't recall too much about them. But yeah, I think the background in terms of why they made Evelyn, or why she's a children, is because children are less threatening. So they made these bioweapons to
be like less assuming, essentially, because if you have a humongous tyrant walking around on the streets, people will probably notice.
Yeah, but with a child, no one's going to think twice about an innocent looking child like Evie infecting them with something. And as you'll see throughout, especially you'll see at the end of the game when we synthesize the last serum, it's called like the E necrotoxin. Evelyn, her name starts with an E. She was like the later iteration, because they've gone through so many different models. Like you saw the little mummified pieces we picked up were the D series head and arm. So Evelyn is like the final one that they made.
And so who was that guy? Was that Ethan? Did we see him?
No, he's no. That was Alan.
That is Alan, and that is Mia's colleague. So a few years before like Ethan's marriage to Mia, Mia took on a job to essentially be the handler of Evelyn, essentially, and both Alan and Mia are currently on this ship, and it's already clear that Evelyn has gotten loose somehow.
Sure.
And now Mia is trying to essentially contain the mold virus within this specific ship. But that's something you don't really know until you actually get to this specific point, and that Mia has a lot more, backstory to her compared to how you saw in the first game, where she actually has, a bit of combat training. Clearly, she's some sort of special agent at this point. She just, blasts rounds into that poor molded back.
Well, he's not supposed to be here. We're just gently pushing him out.
Just with a few bullets, that's fine.
Yeah, we don't have to kill him. We just kind of have to push him out, because if molded are in any elevators, because there's a couple elevators that we go through in this game. If the molded are inside at all, we can't interact with the buttons. So we just kind of either run past them really quick if they're outside the elevator, or we just kind of gently push them out. Something like that. So
as long as you're gentle about it.
Yeah. So something that we did earlier, we did the first Alan phone call skip where we interacted with the mold at max distance, and then kind of ran out the room, so we didn't have to talk to Alan. So this one right here, we're setting up for the second phone call skip, and we're not necessarily skipping the whole phone call with Alan. We're just progressing forward while we're talking to Alan on the phone, mainly because when we're talking to Alan, we literally can't do anything. We can't open our inventory, we can't open doors, can't do anything. So you're just literally standing there waiting for like doors to open and whatnot. And as we know, that kind of wastes time. So actually, I don't think I did menu. Wow. I was second guessing myself. It's like, I don't remember menuing here, but I guess I did. But yeah, so what was found is that when we're on the phone with Alan, you can still detonate remote bombs and go through doors. So we set up that remote bomb there earlier before the phone call starts, and we're going to detonate it and then kind of press confirm to open the door and push ourselves through that door. So it's a neat little thing, saves a few seconds. But yeah, like I said, we're on the phone right now. We can't really skip it, but we can at least move forward a little bit. So
you're detonating bombs while on the phone. He's like, "What was that?" You're like, "Don't worry about it." He's like, "You realize you're on a boat right now?" He's like, "You just chill. I got it under control. I'm a speedrunner."
What was that?
I don't even know what's happening right now.
And
these molded guys, were they your crew members?
I think so.
Sure.
I mean, you would have to assume, we saw on one of the previous flashbacks that, Evelyn essentially just forced the mold upon one of the crewmates, and then he stumbled onto the ground. So you can assume that,
Ow, ow, ow.
you know, this ship has quite a few people on it who are now molded.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
Just hanging about.
Got away.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I remember reading notes and oh my god, Mia, stop. Oh god, she checks her watch at the most inconvenient times, I swear. Okay, we're good.
Sometimes you got to know what time it is, even
exactly.
when there's a hulking mold creature running right at you. You're just like, wait, hold on, let me just.
Yeah,
okay.
it's very, very inconvenient. Alrighty. But,
So this is essentially a flashback because
Yes.
you're playing as Mia right now.
yes.
I guess not essentially; it literally is a flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the flashback videotape I was talking about, or this was the videotape I was talking about that you have to watch regardless, because you can't open the room, can't skip it or anything like that. You just have to watch it and go through this. And another FPS swap here just to get by that guy. That really right there just kind of made him attack a little bit slower just so he doesn't hit us, because the big arm molded, you know, they look big and scary, and that's because they do a lot of damage. So we want to make sure to not get hit by that guy. We're essentially in the home stretch, though. We just go upstairs and interact with Alan, and, you know, another nice downtime where you can stretch and get a drink of water and whatnot.
Sure. So speaking of lore of the game, as we kind of already established, like Resident Evil 7 is, you know, more or less kind of a soft reboot of the series, you know, perspective change, new characters, Village kind of being a, you know, it's technically Resident Evil 8, but also, you know, they call it Village because that's where it takes place and it is very important, but it's like, it's also more or less just like a sequel to Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
How imperative do you think, Jesse, it would be, without spoiling anything from Village, for you to play every Resident Evil leading up to be able to grasp what's going on with Village? Or do you think that just playing 7 catches you up just enough?
It really depends, because like Resident Evil as like a franchise, you know, has been really about this small family of like, you know, best friends where it's, you know, Chris, Jill, Barry, and, you know, the rest of the Stars team and stuff who have been, you know, facing Umbrella for so many years now. And then you have Ethan here who, you know, he's kind of just a singular unit. He has his family and that's really it. And he's going up against Umbrella. But in terms of getting caught up in the lore, when you're playing Resident Evil 7, there's a few references here and there to previous games. You know, you might find a newspaper that explains about, you know, the Raccoon City virus from, you know, what a character from Outbreak, where you might see, you know, a few paintings here and there that reference previous games and stuff. But the story within Resident Evil 7, I think it's fairly self-contained, and I feel like it leads pretty naturally into Village itself. The only thing that, you know, you might want to find out a little bit more about is, and we'll see at the end of the game here, is when Redfield turns up, Chris Redfield. And that's really like the main connecting point. And that's like that juicy bit of lore that people want to know, like, why is Chris Redfield appearing at the end of the game? Why is he apparently working for, you know, Blue Umbrella? Because the last time we really saw him, it was Resident Evil 6, where, you know, he was still working for the BSAA, you know, fighting against all these bioweapons and stuff. But really, like, I don't think you have to spend too much time catching up if you've only experienced 7 and you're looking to get into Village. Because there is a lot of lore if you try to catch up as well.
Agreed.
Right. It's like you can get this whole, like, you know, recap of the entire universe itself, but it's like this is just a much smaller, self-contained, you know, Resident Evil 7 and going into Village. Yeah, I guess, like, yeah, you wouldn't know exactly, you know, who is Umbrella, who is Chris Redfield, and who, you know, what a biomutant is, and, you know, whatnot. But it's like the things you need to know going into Village is like, who is Ethan, who is Mia, everything, you know, you know, what happened during this game, kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, if you do want to catch up, we do have a timeline video on IGN itself explaining the lore, so that is pretty handy.
No, they just have to watch this video. This video gets you completely caught up. This is an expert recap of everything Resident Evil.
But
you will leave this stream.
That's the thing with 7. If you had a keen eye and you're looking for all the notes and stuff, you'll come across terms and, you know, character names and references that, you know, if you know, found a little bit interesting, you can just search up. And I think that main connecting point, like I said, is Chris Redfield at the end there. Because
Mhm.
if you're new to Village, you're not really going to know the significance of who Chris Redfield is. But, going into Village from 7, he's obviously a, important character, and obviously kicks off the events seemingly for Village too.
So you may notice we're still playing as Mia again, but we're in present day Mia, and we're still on a journey to save Ethan. So this is the same exact boat that we saw earlier, but as you can tell, it is much grimier than it was before. And I did not get God Door, which sucks. If you do this part quick enough, you can pick up that corrosive and leave the room before the door closes. It's quite convenient. It saves a couple seconds. It's really easy to do on PC, but if you overshoot your mouse turn a little bit, sometimes you'll miss it, just like I did. But all's good. We're still moving.
When you guys
Jesse,
were, oh sorry,
go ahead. No,
when you guys
please,
first played 7, how did you find like this transition from the house to the ship? Because I know it was a little bit controversial for some players.
Yeah,
because they love the house so much, and then this boat section is like fairly prolonged.
yeah. So I feel like from a casual playthrough standpoint, I think the ship is great just because there's a ton of lore that goes on here. It's also absolutely terrifying, and it's easy to get lost as well. I don't know about you guys, but if you are playing through a game and you don't know where you're going and you're constantly getting lost and there's monsters lurking
100%.
around, it's quite terrifying. So I think from a casual standpoint, it's really great. But also at the same time, I understand the criticism because the pacing of the game just totally slows down. Because the first half of the game, we were avoiding the Baker family. We had these crazy boss fights and whatnot. But yeah, then once you get here, everything just kind of slows down. For the speed run, it's kind of eh. I joke around and I say, "All right, everyone, it's time to take a nap," just because we're just running through this ship section. As you can tell, like the game as a whole is not super colorful, and it's very desaturated. But here, it's even more so.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not the most exciting part of the game or the speed run, but it's not too bad. We try to get through it as fast as possible.
Yeah, I have to imagine, like we talked about this earlier, where it's like with how like gross and grimy and moldy and everything. I'm sure you're ready for that change of pace going into Village.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The brighter settings, the clean castle, and all that stuff, and humans aren't eating guts and stuff like that.
But they are drinking your blood.
Yeah, that's true. Like
true.
That aspect still exists.
What's kind of crazy is just like, if you get attacked by any of the vampires or even just the normal enemies, they really get in your face. And there's kind of a decently long animation that kind of happens when you get attacked. So I would imagine, at least upcoming in the speedrun, we're going to kill as few as possible and be sure to avoid every single one just because, they do quite a number on you.
Yeah.
Like this, you just kind of mosey past that guy. He's just like forming up to be this terrifying monster. And she's just like, pardon me, sir.
Let's just squeeze right by here. Also, you may have noticed we didn't pick up any weapons or items or anything of that nature. Also, Mia doesn't have. Well, I'm trying to think. I can't remember if on New Game if we have like the shotgun and everything in our inventory or if it's just the New Game Plus items. But either way, whether you're running on New Game or New Game Plus, you don't pick up any items on the boat with Mia. We just run around. Because as you can see, we just kind of walk by most enemies there. The only thing we pick up there is that survival knife, just because we're opening up that crate to use the remote bomb on the crawler downstairs. But other than that, we just ran by everyone. Also, we got a very great lore piece right here.
Yeah, this is when the kind of Baker family, the human like versions of the Baker family, are kind of like plead into Ethan and apologizing to him just for everything he went through, which you don't really get a lot from the villains in Resident Evil. They don't often apologize to you.
Sorry about that. Remember when we tried to like torture you and eat your guts?
Yeah,
look, our bad. Yeah, so I was going through a phase. It happens to everybody. It was Tuesday. Week was long. Yeah, so what's exactly happening here? Why are they nice now? Is this a flashback? What is this?
So this is the thing, like during Ethan's imprisonment with the mold, and I don't know if that's, you know, potentially the mold kind of seeping into himself, or if this is just some kind of like weird vision happening to Ethan. But you know, Jack and the rest of the family do appear now that they're free of, like, you know, Evelyn's control, and you know, they're just expressing like this, you know, kind of deep sadness, and you know, being so apologetic for, you know, kidnapping people and you know, his wife, and you know, trying to kill him. But this thing, we don't really know if this is actually, you know, the Baker family themselves, or if this is just some sort of, like, you know, apparition in Ethan's mind that he's come up with.
Some like weird projection and
yeah. But you can assume, because he's been connected to the mold, that might actually be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, because from my understanding is that right here, you know, Jack, Ethan, Zoe, they're kind of like in Evelyn's hive mind of sorts, because that's where she controls the mold. So Ethan sees this vision in terms of, like, you know, because he's here encapsulated with the mold and whatnot, so he can communicate to Jack through that mold, essentially.
Yeah. And that apology totally makes up for everything he's gone through so far. So props to Jack for that.
Yeah. No, what's really great. You both played the DLCs for this game, right?
Yeah.
Nope.
I was gonna say Mark. Silence from Mark. But I think the DLC in this game is really well done, just because, one, there's a lot of them, and two, they serve you know, for lore purposes, there's a lot to unpack in there. So if you play the Daughters DLC, you control Zoe, and that takes place before all of this happens. And you see, you know, the Baker family is super nice, very hospitable, just kind of like your traditional Southern family who are big on hospitality. And Jack's a total sweetheart, and so is Marge. So I never thought Jack was super evil or anything like that. And you know, you can tell by his sentiments here that, you know, he never meant for any of this to happen. You know, Evie just came into their lives because they took in Evelyn, because, you know, her and Mia washed up upon shore and whatnot. So
yeah.
But yes, Mark, play all the DLCs, please, before Village comes out. You got a little bit of time.
You got to catch up on that lore, man. It's well worth it.
Well, you know, it's what? So technically Thursday morning, I have like 6 hours to.
That is plenty of time. That is absolutely plenty of time. If you
also, I already played Village, so what are we gonna
do? And since, you know, we mentioned escape rooms earlier, the one DLC that's amazing is called Bedroom, and that's literally an escape room. You have to get out of there before Mark gets you and whatnot. So I think you would enjoy that one.
How many DLCs are there?
There's Not a Hero, The End of Zoe, and then 2 like packs of DLCs.
Banned footage.
17
volume 1 and
DLC.
2.
I need you to play them all.
There's those ones that Jesse mentioned, and then there's Bedroom, 21, Nightmare. Oh god, I feel like there's another one I'm missing.
But like a lot of the DLCs, like aside from Not a Hero, they're kind of like mini, like little bite-size, you know, portions of Resident Evil 7.
Oh, and then Daughters, I just mentioned that. And then there's also Ethan Must Die and Jack's 55th Birthday, which are, Ethan Must Die is just like a one hit mode. If you get hit by something, you die. All the crates are RNG, basically what the game gives you. That's it.
Oh, you know what? I did play that. Yeah.
And that's quite hard.
Yeah.
And then Jack's...
That's like not the game though, right? That's like you're like at the trailer and you're just like outside and you're like going and you're like getting the crates and stuff like that. And like you said, the random. Sometimes the crates can like explode, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So it's like always a risk.
You got to listen for the ticking.
Yeah, I did play a little bit of that one. I don't remember why. That must have been one of the first ones that came out.
And then Jack's 55th Birthday is just a silly, like, feed Jack all this food, and all the molded have party hats and everything like that.
Yeah.
But speaking of extra content, Village has mercenaries.
Oh, and that's very exciting to see the return of that as well. And you know, it goes back to those small elements like, you know, treasures in Resident Evil 7, you know, the merchant and stuff, and just seeing the return of mercenaries again. It's, you know, it's certainly nice to see that back.
Yeah.
That ended up getting a little bit of a delay, though, correct? That's not coming out.
I think you're thinking of Reverse.
Oh, okay.
That's the online portion of Resident Evil Village.
Funny enough, I really enjoyed Reverse. I wasn't sure totally how I'd feel about it, but after playing it in the beta a couple times, I think it's very fun.
Yeah. is weird. Capcom's always had like, you know, interesting efforts when it comes to transforming Resident Evil into a multiplayer experience. You know, you got Outbreak, which is, you know, your fairly standard bog like Resident Evil experience, and then, you know, you've got Mercenaries. There's a lot to go for there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I played one. I did not like it. It was like,
Uh-oh.
Was that Resistance?
I don't remember.
During Resident Evil 3 remake times?
It was like Operation Raccoon something.
Oh, that's the Operation Raccoon. See, that's a whole other game.
Yeah, it was like you're in the police station from Resident Evil 2 and stuff like that. And yeah, I did not like that game.
Is that a multiplayer game? Because I haven't played that one either.
That was a multiplayer one. That was, I think, done by the developers of like the SOCOM series. It was a pretty funky game, to say the least.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll just say that it was pretty funky.
Yeah.
So, interesting note. You may have seen me do this through various parts of the speed run. So I've been doing these things called retries, where I retry at various points in the game. Most of them will boost Ethan's movement speed. Other ones will teleport him to like the other side of the door or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This one that's coming up here in the salt mines, this is the most important retry in the entire speed run. It boosts Ethan's movement speed exponentially. Like he's gonna be going. he's got that Eurobeat playing, and he's moving.
So this is it, huh? He just you know, he chugged some G Fuel, and now he's just like, all right, let's go. Finally,
It's all that clean, like, you know, salty sea airs in his lungs, and now he's just ready to go. Now that he's in the salt mine as well.
I mean, by important, it's like 13 seconds faster, something like that. It's in the teens in terms of how much time it saves by doing that one retry. Evelyn's kind of throwing her molded at us, but we got our shotgun. We're good to go.
And you've got that ammo as well you picked up earlier, so we should be good.
Yeah, and then for these two big boys, we just shoot a neuro round in between them. It's kind of similar to like your freeze rounds from like Resident Evil 3. It doesn't like totally freeze them, but yeah, it just kind of stuns them a little bit for us to climb up this ladder.
I love the confidence there. I was like, oh, we're totally good. Oh god. Okay, never mind. We're good.
Well, it's because you want to headshot those guys, and you know, I make sure to angle it up and shoot them in the head. That particular guy, I guess I must have shot his chest, or maybe shot to the left a little bit, just because shotgun spread is a thing. Sometimes you think you hit something and you didn't, and yeah, that guy he could have bit us, but he didn't, thankfully. All right, since I took a little bit of damage earlier, I'm going to pick up this strong first aid right here. Oh, right there.
Why not?
Yeah, it's very, very nice and convenient. And
so,
actually...
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we actually don't need our shotgun anymore. We just need our handgun.
I love seeing you go through. It's like shotgun, little bit of first aid, pop back to the shotgun. Like it reminds me of like Counter-Strike. You're just like flipping through everything, and then just
yeah. As you can tell, we're also back in the guest house.
It's weird how everything kind of wraps around. You know, that Bakers just have a salt mine in the backyard, an entire ship. It's a huge land they have here.
Yeah, we've officially come full circle here.
So is this the game basically wrapping up, or like are we almost to the end, or
we're almost to the end.
So Jesse, where are we now? So we were on a ship where we left Mia and we're going through these salt mines. Now we're back in the house at the beginning. If
you were playing this in kind of like a vanilla style, you would have been reading all the notes, and at this point you would know that like Evelyn is what's considered like an E-series bioweapon, and you know she's able to, like you've seen with the Baker family, you know, infect people with the mold, which is kind of like a psychotropic thing. You know, it affects them mentally and physically too. And now Ethan has, you know, the killer injection essentially, but Evelyn's playing, you know, her tricks, which isn't certainly surprising because, you know, she is able to, you know, mess with your mind mentally. And now that Ethan has kind of been in contact with the mold and, you know, been held down by it, Evelyn can now kind of get in his head, and that's what we're seeing here. She's doing some kind of like a force push here, which is quite impressive, to be fair. But we've got her, and now she's about to show her true self. And you haven't really been able to see it in the speedrun, but Evelyn is in fact the old little grandma that you've been seeing, you know, popping up throughout the entire game. And look, there she is.
What?
Oh,
unbelievable.
We saw her a couple of times. We just kind of ran past her.
Poor little grandma not getting any attention paid to her. But the reason why she is old is just because that's just like a accelerated aging effect of the virus itself, and considering it hasn't been kept in check, and she's been kind of like, projecting this childlike version of herself. Yeah, and like we said before, every Resident Evil character turns into a disgusting like blob of a mess, and Evelyn's no different.
Oh, she's taken over the whole house.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably something we should have talked about an hour and a half ago. But if we want to talk about like Marphoria, you're not running on the worst PC imaginable. You're playing with these like interlaced low texture graphics for a reason, right? To get as much frame rate as you can.
Absolutely. Yes. And when Village, once we get a hold of Village, we're probably going to do the same things there. Like I've already noticed, kind of, at least on the demos, running on variable frame rate makes OBS kind of slow. So locking it to 120 helps it out much more. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be similar with Village, where we just kind of knock all those graphics down to low. If there will be a variable category, maybe that'll help, but they'll probably just be like a 120 category, just to make it fair and whatnot. We'll see what happens. Anything can happen.
So what's the process there? Like playing it for the first time, we're gonna crank the settings up, we're gonna look at it, it's gonna be pretty, and you're like, cool, what a wonderful game I just experienced. Now let's make it look garbage. As trying to figure out as many skips as we can.
What I like to call potato graphics.
Sure.
Whatever to get those extra frames, absolutely, when you're speedrunning.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, we're coming upon the literal final stretch here. We don't get an RPG like most Resident Evil games at the end game. We get a pistol loaded with some special bullets to take care of Evelyn here. And we should be doing this.
The pistol has grenade rounds in it, so we're good.
Essentially, the sound it produces is completely bonkers. And it's certainly surprising that you can take down this humongous, disgusting monster with it.
Yeah, and laying there before, you don't have to shoot anything at her. You just lay there because it's essentially like a scroller of sorts. But yeah, here we go. We shot the 4 shots into her with our Albert pistol, and she's donezo.
And so who was that? That was Evelyn, yeah.
That was Evelyn.
Yeah.
And time will officially
in a true final form.
Time will officially start when the screen. Time will officially end when the screen fades to black. And time.
All right, so we don't see the timer. We'll have it on the ending video, but what are we at?
So I was gonna say I lost a decent amount of time from having to backtrack for those shotgun shells. I literally lost a minute and some odd seconds from that. My life split here, which goes by game time, that says 1:31:53. So that should say that here at the end as well. Maybe sometimes OBS is off by a second. So we'll skip all of this.
Chris Redfield, though. No love at the end.
Oh,
yeah. So go ahead and Jesse, give us a quick like ending explainer there. On what there we go. 1:31:52.
There it is.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah, like I said, I'm literally lost a minute from having to backtrack from those shells, but like I said, still a great moment for us to talk about the game some more and hype up Village and everything like that.
Okay, so that was the end of Resident Evil 7. Jesse, give us a quick recap of what the ending was leading into Resident Evil Village.
So a lot happened there. A lot happened to Ethan as well. But what we just saw was that Ethan finally took down Evelyn, but not without a little bit of help. Ethan picked up the Albert Wesker pistol, the Albert, from apparently Chris Redfield. He appears at the game coming from a helicopter, and he introduced himself to Ethan as Redfield. So not actually as Chris Redfield, which caused a bit of confusion back in the fan base during the day of Resident Evil 7 when it was released and stuff. But yeah, this is apparently Chris Redfield working for Blue Umbrella. And if you know anything about Resident Evil, then you know that Chris and all his friends, stars included, absolutely hate Umbrella. They're the corporation that started this all. And, when you're leading into Village, a lot of the trailers make it out to seem that Chris is kind of a bad guy, especially since, he blasts Mia's face off with his pistol and, takes his child. That's not really Chris Redfield thing to do, to be honest. I'm just saying. But yeah, apparently Chris Redfield could be a villain. We're not too sure yet.
And Marphoria, after playing 7 so many times, what are your thoughts knowing that you're 12 or so hours away from Resident Evil Village.
Oh, I'm so excited. I like the excitement cannot be contained. I mean, we've been waiting for this game for a while. The showcases, the demos, they have all like lived up to that hype. The environments look beautiful. The gameplay is so smooth. Like I said, quite a few similarities between 7 and 8, with a lot of influence from 4. We're essentially taking one of the most fun Resident Evil games, Resident Evil 4, one of the newest, very terrifying games like 7, and then we're kind of merging them together, and it's going to be such a beautiful, amazing game, and I really can't wait. Really can't wait.
So on that note, I assume we'll be seeing a lot of Resident Evil Village streams from you. Where can we find you on Twitter and on Twitch?
I'm at twitch.tv/Marphoria, and I have the same handle on Twitter, Marphoria. And yes, I will be streaming Village on day 1, and I'll be streaming it until I beat it, and then subsequent speedruns following.
And Jesse, where can we find you on the social medias and all that good stuff?
On Twitter, you can just find me at The Friendly Bro, and I also occasionally stream retro games as well over on Twitch, which all the information will be on my Twitter too.
Perfect. And you can find me on Twitter at Mark_Medina. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for playing the game. Thank you so much for telling us everything that's happening shot for shot, Jesse.
No
that is going to do it for us. I can't believe it. Resident Evil Village. We are living. Today is the day the game comes out. I can't wait for everyone to play it. I can't wait to play it more myself. But that is going to do it for us. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Speedrun to Day 1. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.